Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Muley, and today we have another fun video showing you what water-wise landscapes look like in Utah. And I'm here with Ron, and I met Ron a few years ago, right?
4.5 years ago.
4.5 years ago, yeah. And we sat and talked about your landscape. Yeah. I gave him a design, and then he took that design and made it his own, and it is absolutely beautiful.
We'd done some research on what we wanted to do here, and what we thought, and gave those ideas to you, and I had just started into the hobby of getting into gardening, and I was new. I had not at that time heard of Localscape. It was, I guess, new from when I've read about it since then, and I hadn't had any of the online courses that you can take, and so I was just kind of giving some ideas to you on our design, and then but just to try and limit the amount of grass and a hobby of plants that are native plants that I was looking for.
This is what I love about Ron. He has an almost encyclopedic knowledge about native plants, and the plants that he's used on his property are amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, so shall we go show them some of the plants?
Yes.
So this is absolutely gorgeous. Let me just give him an overview of what you've done. So you've got the lawn is your central open shape,
I have
right?
my open space here, but I've tried to do some of the native grasses here, the ornamental grasses, such as the blue oak grass. I'm really a fan of the penstemons, but the penstemons is you have to realize that they will flower early. They're an early flower one, and if you can deadhead them quickly, you might get another blooming later in the summer. But that's the firecracker penstemon. You can find that through Moab, but I've also seen hundreds of these plants up on the canyon wall in the rocky areas of American Fork Canyon. You can see them up there. Yep,
so they're actually native to this area.
They're native to this area. They're usually found in gravelly, the talus type, slough off rock on the north side of the canyon as you're driving up on your left side of American Fork Canyon. And I'm a big fan of the blanket flowers.
These are so pretty.
And I've had a few that I cut back this year, and some of them have seeded and they're waiting to come back in this year.
There's a few seeding over here. Yeah.
And when you're doing a design with a yard, one of the things you always have to work about is your spouse. And so,
yes.
I got this rose, and I forgot the name of it, and the label is in there somewhere probably, but that was a compromise with my wife, and it's turned out to be, her idea turned out to be quite wonderful because it added a new color scheme to here. And we have the chiropsis, and this is another phlox here. And last year I had a big globe mallow, which is you can find up here on the bench areas throughout the Wasatch Front and throughout central Utah. The globe mallows, this will have an orange flower, but this one I cut it back last year because it was falling over on the grass, and this is the one that's coming out this year. And I do have another small plant that's a native plant that I found from an online nursery. It's this little one here. It's a giant sulfur buckwheat, and that will flower from late July, probably August and September. But this year it's just coming back, and then more blanket flowers and the golden columbine,
which is also native up in our hills.
Yes, and we have another ceum, and even though the Mugo pine is not a native, it's still an attractive piece, and it looks close enough. The red one you see right down there, that is a hummingbird trumpet, but it's one from a California coastal one that I just liked the red, and I added it.
Yeah, that's gorgeous.
And then I have the other grasses here, and I added a dry riverbed, and this is one of the big things, the attractions of my project here is my grandkids and the neighbors' kids, grandkids, just love running up these rocks. I'll sit up on the front porch and I'm just entertained by watching the kids in the neighborhood, the grandkids, go up and down these all my rocks hopping around them on them.
So it's drainage and an entertainment zone.
It's an entertainment zone, yes, more than I anticipated. So I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of the grandma grass. This is the blonde ambitious grandma grass, and that one's just coming out really nice. They'll have the nice eyelash type seed heads. And then we have the black-eyed Susans. This one here has a little bit, you might see in your photo, some little wilting. I just discovered last night I had a drip line that had come disconnected and wasn't getting watered. This is one plant that does need a little regular watering compared to some of the other ones I have around here. And we have the blue fescue. This one's the Idaho blue fescue. You can find that at some of the nurseries, but I bought these 3 from an online nursery.
Yeah, I love that. Now what is this one right here?
This one is the curly leaf mountain mahogany. This is up on the hillside, up on the bench areas.
Really quick, that is mountain mahogany.
That's mountain mahogany, that's
and
right.
This is mountain mahogany.
Yes. Yep, I love that. So,
yeah, I love the seed heads on this.
Yeah, this one will need some grooming. I want it to grow up a little more instead of growing out. So by some pruning in the fall, it will go more vertical. That's my goal. So this one started off 4 years ago, was about this tall. Now it's doubled, a little more than doubled, 2.5 times what it was.
Another one that is native to our hills right in our local
much
area.
So. There's about 2 or 3 types of mountain mahoganies and the nurseries will cover about 2 of them.
Now this one too is another new one.
Now this one's a new one I just had planted just like a month ago. This one is when it will grow a little bit more. This one is a desert purple sage. It will probably get about this tall and about this wide. I'll probably have to take my little path and have to move it up a few inches to make room for this one. And I also have a black sage over there, and that one will be slightly smaller than the desert purple sage. Both of these are natives. You can find them down in southern Utah quite a lot. And then I have the Gamble oak, which is, this one started off as a little sprout. Now it's gone up. This one will also get pruned to try and turn it more into a tree instead of a shrub. We put a path in here.
Look at this path, it's beautiful. Did you do this yourself?
I had a person help me with this. I hired a person that did some of this. I was working then to pay for some of this.
Yes, unfortunately that has to happen too.
Yeah, but it came out really nice. We have the Gara, which is a Texas plant. It's more of like an East Texas, maybe Louisiana type plant, but it's very water-wise and it looks like it could be from Moab or desert type climate.
Yeah, I like using that, counting it as a native, even though it isn't really truly native to here, but it acts like one.
It's a native to the United States. So my first objective of all plants is look for Utah, Great Basin, and then Western United States. Well, that one came out close. This is one of my little pride ones. Now it's because it's warm today, but in the mornings these flowers will be blue and they'll open up. This is the Lewis blue flax. You can find it usually along the highways in the rocky areas on the highways in Utah. This is a very native plant. It's very water-wise plant. I love that little plant.
So it's still blooming, because I visited with you about a month ago and it was blooming.
It was blooming then, yeah. And it won't bloom as much as it gets hotter, but in the beginning of the spring, this will have really bright blue violet flowers in the mornings. They'll kind of close up in the afternoons, late afternoons.
You can see the remnants of them here. Yeah, it's so pretty.
And then we got the pink ladies. That was all a seed mix from last year, and that's come out this year. And even though we have the fine leaf buckthorns here on the wall, they're not native, but they are another water-wise plant.
Really beautiful.
And then we have the soul dancer daisy, which is very native. And this was 3 little plants, and it just filled out really wonderful.
And it reseeds itself in all the little cracks.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll walk through and pick some of them out, and the other times I'm letting them go just because they add some variety to the walkway here. And we have the moonshine yarrow, and this one come out really well. And then This was another one. This is a Santa Fe phlox. This one's more of a New Mexico-ish type plant. It could be in the real southern corner, Four Corners area of Utah. You could probably find it down there. And then this one here is one of my pride and joys. This is a Mexican hat, and it's got this, what do you call this color? Rust colored?
Yeah, kind of a rust, mahogany, I don't know.
Yeah, but it's a cone head type flower, and it will bloom off and on throughout the whole season. And this one's about 4 or 5, 6 inches taller than what I thought it was going to get, but it's a beauty. It's a beauty.
It is a beauty. And
It adds a lot of variety. It's a very native plant. You can find it down in Moab in the deserts. You can also occasionally, I found it up on one time I was on a mountain biking trip with my son. We found it up here on Traverse Ridge. We found a couple up there. So it's rare up here on the Wasatch Front, but can be found up here.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love this. Now this is another one that I love. Look at the color on this. I'm trying to remember that this is a red bud. Now I have the Golden Falls, but this one is, I can't remember, it's golden something. And Ron was saying that he just pruned this year and it took off. Look how beautiful that is. I love the color. And the thing I love the most about these red buds, you know, the golden ones, is they don't burn. You would think with the golden leaves that they would burn.
No.
But they don't.
Now the first 2 years when we planted it, it was about this tall 4 years ago. This was probably the first thing I planted here in this yard. The rest of it was just dirt all over the place and rocks. But this one's grown up, and the first 2 years we had the cutter leaf bees that really took a hit on it. This year we're not seeing the bees. I wonder if it's because of the wet spring. We're not seeing the bees here this year.
But it's absolutely beautiful.
And I pruned it back a lot last year, and then this spring it really took off. It's fuller than it's been before.
Now this is another thing I love. You took a side yard, which most people just use as a walkway, and made this very useful and beautiful.
We added the planter boxes. This is more of my wife's creations, where she's got the herbs here. She's got basil and oregano, and I don't remember them all, and a squash it looks like.
Yeah.
And we ran a water line here and filled it. We filled it in with the sunshine gravel that we got from a dealer, and it keeps the weeds down. I only occasionally will find a couple little sprouts, and I just pick them out. They're pretty. I only put a little bit of weed fabric down here, but most of it, yeah. I tried to go 3 inches deep on it.
Very useful, very easy to maintain.
And then up here we have the mini oat grass. That's a native grass here to the Great Basin area of Utah here. Yeah. This I haven't even watered. I've done a couple little hand waterings. I planted these last summer, so they've been in a year. They'll get about that high. I guess the Native Americans used to take the seed heads and make a flower out of them or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And my wife's tomatoes, and then my wife is way into the rhubarb plant. She loves making rhubarb strawberry pies and rhubarb crisp with them. Then we have the Carl Forster grasses that you can get at all the nurseries. This is not a native plant to the Great Basin, but it's close enough. It fits with the theme of the yard.
Yes. Now you've got quite the slope here.
Yeah, I got a lot of slope, and we tried to step it up. And on the side here, because this in the mornings, this is the shady side of the house, we have the alpine currants. It looks like they're finally showing some berries here, and the birds will be in that a little bit. But these are a very native plant that you can see up on the hillsides and up here in the canyons. I have hardly done anything to those. I've pruned them back just a little bit, but they
feed the birds.
Yeah, and they're easy to take care of. They're not going to get much bigger than this. They just need to get pruned a little bit because they don't want to go out too far a little bit. Yes. And then we have the what is these, standing ovation?
Yeah.
So these were supposed to get 15 feet high eventually, and about maybe 6 feet wide. And my wife's planted her pumpkins in between them because she loves growing the big pumpkins. This is going to be a few years before they get up and become like a barrier, a privacy type fence thing. But and then another little project of mine, I'm trying to get into the showy milkweed, so I can, you know, help the environment with the monarch butterflies, kind of stuff.
So you're pollinate your butterfly garden.
Yeah, I'm trying to do my butterfly garden for monarch butterflies. And then we have the these little grasses here are the
Little
burgundy bunnies. You can get at all the nurseries. This one's kind of a water thirsty plant because I have the hillside here. I didn't run a water line to them. Some of the water run off when the sprinklers are on, waters these for me and takes care of them. So these were just planted late last fall, and they're
happy.
Yeah, they look happy. And then I can't even remember that grass.
That almost looks like it's it's not a Carl Forester. It
No,
looks like
it's not
some
a
sort of
Carl Forester,
panicum.
but I cut that back, and I don't even have a water line back there. I hand watered them once this year, but with the spring there, I cut them back way to just about half of my shin, and they've just taken off on their own.
Yeah, it looks kind of like one of the switch grasses. I'm not sure
Yeah.
which one it would have been.
And then this is the snowberry bush, and this
It's
is a
starting
native.
to flower.
And I pruned this back pretty good this spring. This one has some flowers coming out on it now. And in the end of the season, late September, October, this will have the white berries on it. And it looks kind of nice. The berries do get a little heavy, and they'll weigh down some of the branch at that point.
Yeah, but it's a gorgeous, gorgeous plant.
And then I have a few of these, the autumn brilliant serviceberry trees. They're a small native tree. Usually there can be both a shrub or a tree, depends on how the nursery has started the grooming on them or the pruning. So this one's here as a tree. I do have one up higher, you'll see, that's more of a shrub. And then this one's another one of my wife's wishes. This is not a native plant, but this is the butterfly bush, and it's a fun tree. It adds a lot of color to the yard. I pruned it way back this spring, and it took off after I pruned it back. It really blossomed after pruning.
Before we pass it by, can we look at your because this is another buckwheat, right?
This one's another buckwheat. This one's a native one. This one is the Rajanon bellinum. This one's a native plant. This one got planted here probably in March, and it's just coming out now. These are the Rocky Mountain goldenrod. These will get maybe a foot tall. These are you can find these up in the Uintas and here in the Wasatch Front. It's a native. It had little flowers here this first year. These ones got planted the same time as that buckwheat one did.
Yeah.
So they're a native plant. They'll be fun to play with. And we got another, the Oregon creeping grape.
Oh yeah, definite native.
That's a very good plant that loves to live up in the Uintas and in the Wasatch Front. This will probably get knee-high eventually. I'll probably end up pruning it as it tries to creep over the walkway. But this one's on its second year. It is a slow-growing plant, though.
But it'll get the yellow flowers and the burgundy foliage in the spring, yeah, and in the fall.
And we do have the Sargentina crabapple tree. This you can see it's got berries here on it.
That'll feed your birds.
But these berries, some of the crabapple trees will leave a mess on the lawn underneath. This one has really small berries. That's as big as the berries will get. And this one will not make a mess. Yeah. But it is a small crabapple tree. It might get maybe this much taller over time. It might get another foot or two. This one's a nice plant you can get at some of the nurseries. This is the hummingbird trumpet. Mine's last year didn't come out as a flowering until after the 4th of July. This one came out earlier this year.
Yeah, mine have not flowered. I saw my first flower today.
Yep.
So this one's a little early.
But I got a hummingbird feeder over here, but I'll find out that hummingbirds will go back and forth between this plant and my feeder sometimes. And then this is the this is the shrub version of the autumn service Serviceberry. So I really like this one a lot.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Now this one was a start I was given last year by a friend of mine, Great Basin Rye. I've never found it at the nurseries, but a friend of mine had it who's like a scientist, professor, botanist kind of person. And he gave me a little start. And this was the grass that was in the Salt Lake Valley when the Mormon pioneers came in. And some of the early pioneer journals mentioned that the grass was so tall, it was higher than the bellies of the horses. And but after 30, 40 years of grazing of cattle and horses, they had overgrazed, and this grass was almost taken out of the...
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the story I've been given on it. And so this one will fill out a little bit more, but you can see it's almost 6 feet tall.
Yeah, it's a little bit taller than you, it looks like, possibly. Or at least the same height as you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's slightly the head, but that one will fill out a little bit more. And I got a small little drip line to it. And probably next year, when it fills out a little bit more, I'll probably plug the drip line because it will be established by then, and it won't need much additional water. Maybe some overspray from the grass will get to it. And this one's kind of fallen over. This one's the Rocky Mountain penstemon.
Oh wow, yeah.
And it needs to be deadheaded. And now, and last year it was really good, but this one's a spring bloomer and then doesn't come back.
Yeah, that's one thing with the natives. You've got to kind of plan for that, right?
Yeah. One of the yarrow plants I picked up at one of the big box stores, and this one just, was like a Mother's Day type plant, and it's just taken off. In the back here, we have a sitting area. Oh, we got this plant was a new one from this year. This is the mock orange. This one will get probably about that big and around. This one's more of an Oregon-ish, Washington type, Cascade Mountain Range type mock orange. There is a mock orange from Utah, but again, you're not going to find the one that's from Utah at the plant nursery. This is the one, the plant nursery. So this was close enough to what I was looking for. I grabbed this one.
And then look at these grasses. I love these. Did you say these were the Muley Grass?
Yeah, these were the Muley grasses, and they got up about that high last year. And they, in the second half of the season, you get the red on the tips, and it adds a lot of color. My wife and I cut these way back this spring, and they've filled out quite well, adding some nice color. We have a nice sitting area here, and we've done the blue arrow junipers versus the skyrocket junipers. The skyrocket junipers will get a lot taller. These were planted, the 3 in the corner were planted about 2 years ago, and the 2 on the ends were planted earlier this year.
So those are huge. How big were they when you planted them?
Well, the ones that were, the 3 in the middle here were probably this tall when they...
So they put on a ton of growth.
Yeah, they've gone a little bit. They'll probably go another 3-4 feet tall, but that will act as a break on as a privacy fence kind of thing a little bit. But they'll add color here. They're so low maintenance. They're easy. A little bit of water in the springtime, and they really could... You could get away with, not watering them in the second half of the season.
Well, I think they're probably a really, really good, a good replacement for the euonymus that the deer love to eat and that needs so much water.
Yes.
I'm sorry, not euonymus, the arborvitae.
Yes, and that was another object, but because of my limited space, I needed something a little more narrow than the arborvitae.
Yeah, so these are great.
Because the arborvitae will spread a little bit, more like I only have 3 feet to play with. And those arborvitaes will go 4 or 5 feet, and I didn't want it hanging out into this sitting area.
No, you need to. Yeah, you need to leave this area open. So your pergola is gorgeous too.
Yeah, we got that. One of the gazebo looks that we have picnics out here occasionally when the whole family shows up.
Yeah, And then you have another compromise over here.
Yeah, this was another compromise. This was supposed to have been another garden area, and the wife wanted a playground area for the kids. This was supposed to have a small tree in this area, maybe a gamble oak or two, and with some other shrubbery or flowers in the front that would be, you know, somewhat shade tolerant, but turned out okay to make a sandbox and give us something for the grandkids to play with.
And it could be changed over later.
Yeah, when the grandkids get a little older and outgrow it, I can take it out, and the sand will help me with giving some, mix in with some compost, and I'll have a good soil.
Yeah. So let's just give an overview of your yard. You have done such a gorgeous job. So I'm really excited. I love all the actual true natives that you found to this area that you can actually find in the nurseries and that actually grow.
Yes, they will grow and thrive, and just learning how to adapt to some of the gardening techniques on them. Some of them can be maybe needing a little more work, but most of them need minimal work.
Yeah, I love that. So it's researching, do your research, find out what you like, and then just experiment, right?
Yes. Yeah, I've noticed that some of my middle summer work is lower. I just have the grass and maybe occasionally walking through and picking a little weed sprout that's in the gravel mulch, taking care of that. But usually in the spring and in the fall, that you'll do a cleanup or a pruning time there. That's your big time, spring and fall.
Yeah, so not a lot of maintenance, but absolutely gorgeous. So thank you for letting me come and look at your yard and sharing your experience with everybody. It really, really helps. So you can absolutely have a water-wise landscape. I mean, a lot of times when people think natives, they think like Arizona look, but it's not. It's absolutely beautiful. So I hope this video has been helpful to you. If it has been helpful, I hope you go out and put in your own water-wise landscape and also go have a wonderful garden adventure.